If you're a coach who loves to know what goes on behind the scenes of other people's businesses, this is the episode of the show for you. I'm going to share a full behind the scenes look at all the nitty gritty details, the income that I've had coming in, the projects that I've worked on, the things that have worked, the things that haven't, everything that I've been doing since the start of 2024. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show, I'm sharing a behind the scenes look at what I've been doing, what I've been working on, my income levels, all of that jazz since the start of 2024. I do these behind the scenes episodes of the show fairly regularly. I didn't do like a normal kind of formatted one in April, kind of for the first quarter of the year, because I had a bit of a business meltdown, and I'm going to link to that episode of the show if anyone wants to go back, because I made some really big significant changes in the business, and I kind of talked about the process that I went through and the things that came up, and I'm going to explore that a little bit more today. So it's been a really interesting first half of 2024, and again, I'm really honest with these. There's no, I think all of you guys know, there's no bullshit with me. Do you know what I mean? I'm really honest about what's been going on, and like I say, what's worked and what hasn't. And I think I just had a bit of a moment kind of in March where things just felt like slow, things weren't going according to plan, and I just had to take that whole kind of like relook at what I was doing and what I was building for the future. Sometimes I feel with my business, because I'm at the point where my business is my livelihood. Like, what I earn in this business is what keeps the roof over my head. It's what feeds my children. Like, it is that, and there's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of income to experiment with things, to completely change business models and things like that. And that's not kind of what I've done. I haven't changed my entire business model, but I've made some significant changes this year, and I'm going to explain what all of this stuff looks like and kind of what I'm now working towards. Something that has come up for me in the first half of the year is income has been a little bit down on last year, and I think I felt, as a business coach, really bad about that my income wasn't at the same level as it was last year. And I think there's various different reasons for that. Obviously, there's stuff that is very specific to my individual business, there's stuff that's very specific to my individual circumstances, and stuff that I've had going on in my personal life. But interestingly, I think there has been a bit of a shift. I mean, not only obviously, the reality is that we are still in a cost of living crisis, and there are also other people who are recognising that there's been this shift. I'm going to link to some episodes of a podcast called Align and Attract, and this is an Australian coach, and she did a little series where she interviewed some of the big names in the online business space, particularly Australian people like Denise Duffield-Thomas and Leonie Dawson. And those are really interesting episodes because they kind of helped me reflect on the fact that this industry is changing. And when I talk about this industry, I am talking more specifically about the business coaching industry. So it's probably not as, although I still think there's lots of really big takeaways from those episodes of that show for health and life coaches. I think it is more specific to the business coaching industry, and that there's been this kind of like, massive shift in the way that people are engaging with coaches. And rightly so. There's been so much bullshit and bollocks. There's been so much really dodgy stuff in the coaching industry, and I think part of this is due to people really becoming aware and waking up to that. So I'll link to those episodes of that particular podcast, and I just found it really interesting and kind of validating that I wasn't the only person whose income was not what it was last year. So I found that really interesting, and I will link to those episodes of that particular show. On the flip side, I also had like a really big mindset shift alongside that. And that is, yes, we're in a cost of living crisis. Yes, there's lots of not great or negative, or however you want to frame it, stuff around the economy. But, and I can't remember where this came from, but this is just something I've really been like tuning into, or this is where my energy's been at. There is so much fucking money in this world. Like, there is so much money in this world. It is unbelievable. And what I am aiming to attract into my life is really small in the grand scheme of how much money is in the world. And one of the things that has really shifted for me over these like last 6 months is kind of the the validation that it's not just my business that hasn't quite done as well as it had last year. And that's really helpful because I had been blaming myself and kind of like, and all of that ickiness that I was feeling. So it was good to kind of see that other people were experiencing a similar thing, even though on a completely different scale, because all of those business owners on the Align and Attract podcast are like much, much bigger income level businesses than mine. So that's one kind of truth. And then the other truth that is really been kind of sitting with me is just this fact that there is so much money. Like there is literally so much money in the world. And that's the energy that I've really been sitting in recently, is that. And those two things are not opposing to me, they kind of exist at the same time. So hopefully that kind of makes some kind of sense. But I just wanted to touch on that, and I think it's really interesting. So for anyone who has an established business, who has found that their income hasn't been amazing and has been feeling a little bit alone in that, you're not alone. It's not just your business, it's lots of other people's businesses as well. What tends to happen is people don't talk about it because, especially in the business coaching space, a lot of people's businesses rely on the fact that they market their businesses based on the fact that they attract a certain level of income and they are like doubling every year or increasing their income every year. And a lot of that is just, it's just a facade. It's not actually the truth. So I'm happy to share that my business income has not been quite what it has been in the past, but that is definitely starting to shift as we move ahead. And again, I think the way that the income is coming in for me is different to last year, but I'm going to share all of the details of that in a second. So go and check out those episodes of the Align and Attract podcast if that's something that you want to find out more about, and just listen to those other business coaches talking about the shifts in the way that people are spending the money in this kind of industry and the things that have been working for them that are different, all that kind of stuff. That's a really, really interesting one to get into. So I wanted to just jump back and just talk a little bit about January to March of this year and what that's looked like in my business. So to be fair, January got off to a really, really good start. And I did my annual plan at the start of the year, had some really big goals. Like I wanted to go into this year in business and absolutely nail it. Like I was aiming for £70,000 income this year, really had big goals, really wanted to go after them. And things just felt energetically a little bit heavy. And while January was a really good income month, things just felt a little bit heavy. And then going into February, that kind of heaviness persisted and things felt like they just kind of felt more difficult. And really, it's kind of more from an energetic perspective that I've felt that in terms of the kind of speed that I wanted things to progress at. And I think it's partly the universe being like, no, you need to slow down, Laura. Like there's stuff going on. And I have got some stuff going on in my personal life that at some point I will talk a bit more about. But there's definitely an element of, I feel like I'm being kind of taken care of throughout this process, even though it was uncomfortable at times. And again, that feeling of slowness, that frustration. We've actually got an episode of the show with a human design expert soon, and one of my signs of dissatisfaction as a generator is frustration. So that was a big flag for me at the time. So that frustration in terms of like the speed at which I was working, the speed at which I was, achieving goals, that was all the things that led to me to have that big moment kind of in March when I was like, this isn't working, something really significant needs to change. And I talked about that, as I said, on the last behind the scenes episode of the show that I did, and I'll link to that if anyone wants to listen to more detail around the changes that I made. I shut down a membership, like a kind of low ticket membership, stripped back some of my services and made some big changes to Wholehearted Business, which is really kind of what really made a big difference in this last quarter that we're just kind of finishing off now. Some of the things that I started doing in the first quarter of the year, I started inviting guests onto the Wholehearted Business Show. This was part of me trying to be a bit braver. Brave is my word of the year. And I've always kind of felt like, am I good enough to kind of talk to these people? That sounds ridiculous as you say it, but I had some big blocks over really like inviting people onto the show and actually talking to other people in this online business space, and would they take me seriously and all these kind of things. So that was a big and has been a big thing for me is to invite guests onto the show, and I've really enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed getting to know people, making new business friends, having people share their expertise. It's been really, really good fun. So that's something that started to shift at the first quarter of the year. I also ran a live program called the Freebie and Funnel Fix. I really, really enjoyed that program. Probably didn't get as many people signed up as I would have hoped to that, but it was still really, really good. Really happy that I ran it. Really enjoyed supporting people through that program. It was brilliant. And then, like I say, in March, I was just like, yeah, something needs to change. Something's not quite right. And that is what I did. And like I say, that episode of the show is there if anyone wants to go back and listen to it. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that as we get into the rest of this episode when we start looking at the last quarter. But just to share my income levels for January to March. So in January, I'm going to have to look down at my notes because I will not remember these figures off the top of my head. So my income for January was $6,254. That is $7,920. Great start to the year. I was really happy with that. For February, it was £3,895 or $4,932. I've been converting them because I know some people, obviously, their brain will work in dollars. And then in March, it was $4,276, and that is $5,415. So not terrible. I mean, my business is kind of traditionally been around these kind of numbers, but I really wanted to push it upwards this year, and I really felt frustrated, particularly with like the February figure. It was lower than I would have liked, and I think that was the indicator that I needed to change something, that something wasn't quite working right in the business for me at that point if I wanted to hit that £70,000 goal. So that was where I was at with the income. And just to talk a little bit about expenses, so my expenses tend to run around about the £800 to $1,000 a month kind of space. Those expenses include my accountancy fees, my insurance, my VA, and also includes all of the tech, all of the stuff that I use to make my business run. So those are my expenses. So it's still, my business is still very profitable from that point of view, but also, I want more abundance, I want more money. This is what supports me in my life. This is what supports me to feed my kids, all of that kind of good stuff. So had that big moment in March and then made some big changes. So a jump into kind of April, May and June. And as I record this, we're not quite at the end of June, and I have got some other income to come in. So I'm not going to give like a final figure for June just yet because there's still floating around as I record it. So the big kind of shift going into the second quarter of the year was with Wholehearted Business, which is my group program. And I made the decision to move it from an evergreen, always open model to a closed launch model. That has been a really, really good decision. And I could talk a little bit about evergreen versus launching. And I have done that on an episode of the show before, but it was very much the right decision for me. And that was a big deal. So I made that decision. I also made the decision to move it to an annual program rather than just a 6-month program. And again, I'm very, very pleased with that decision that I made then. So April and May was really around working on getting Wholehearted Business ready to launch. I took some time off in April. We had the 2 weeks Easter holiday. So again, like these are fairly chunky bits of time where I'm kind of out of the groove of the business. And that's fine. Like that's the way that I want to run my business, is that. But it's also kind of recognizing that does, at the moment, the way that my business is set up, that can sometimes impact income levels depending on what it is that I've got going on and what it is that I'm selling. And again, that's something that's been highlighted that I need to examine and look at moving forward, is like, how am I still bringing in sales when I've taken extended breaks? I've got the Wholehearted Business Show, which is attracting new people into my world all of the time, but I probably need some different funnels and stuff set up. So that was just one of the kind of aha moments that I had. And then in May, I ran the Niche Message and Brand Bootcamp, and that was really good. I had more people sign up for that challenge, that kind of live event, than I've ever had for anyone signing up for any of my other live events. That was really, really great. I absolutely loved delivering that. Really, really good fun. Also want to say as well, prior to that, I think sometime in April, I ran some Facebook ads, Facebook and Instagram ads. So again, I've always had a bit of a block with Facebook ads, and I've just found them a bit scary. You don't want to spend loads of money and not make it back and all that kind of stuff. But I ran a round of ads and they did really, really well. I was so happy with the results. They attracted a good chunk of new people onto my list, some of whom went on to join us in Wholehearted Business. So it worked really, really well from that point of view. So I ran that challenge, launched Wholehearted Business. and I think it was 11 new people join us. So yeah, I've brought 11 people into Wholehearted Business, and it was a $17,000 revenue launch. Now, I'm going to be really, really clear on this. This is where sometimes people are like, wow, I had a £17,000 launch or $17,000 launch. Isn't that amazing? Yes, I did do a $17,000 revenue launch, but May was also the lowest income month that I have had in a long time. And that's because I only offered Wholehearted Business on a payment plan option. If I'd offered it payments in full, it would have been a much, much, much higher month. But what I was aiming for with Wholehearted Business is cash flow. That is what my focus has been on, is building my cash flow base, because for me and where I'm at with my business, that is more important for the way that I want to deliver and the way that I want my business set up. So I made that decision. I'm really happy with it. I'm debating on whether or not I would have the painful options or not in the future, and I kind of need to see how this cohort of people in Wholehearted Business move through the program. But I was really, really happy with that. And just in pounds, something that was $17,000 revenue launch, a £13,500 revenue launch. But in terms of income over time, that brought in like £1,130 a month, or $1,680 a month. So you can see the massive difference in terms of the way that we can view that. But for me, this is one of the best launches that I've had. I was really, really happy. This was what I wanted to get out of it, was just to start and build that baseline kind of recurring income, because when I have that, that is the thing that frees me up to do more of the business building stuff. Because this is the big realization, and it sounds kind of obvious now that I say it, is that I am so active in the business. The stuff that is the growth, that, you know, community building stuff, like the all of that stuff is the stuff that tends to, you know, other than doing the show, which is still brings a lot of new people into my world, the volume that I want to go for the future, like the new things that I want to do, if when I have a good cash flow in place, that's the thing that frees me up to do more of that stuff. And when I don't have that in place, that's the thing that makes it more difficult, and that's where I start spinning my wheels. So I was really, really happy with that launch. It was a fantastic launch for me. I was absolutely over the moon with it. And it gives me that cash flow base for 12 months, which is really what I needed in my business for me to be able to, you know, obviously got on top of that. Like my goal for the year was 70k, and that is that's like closer to £6,000 a month, which I'm not close to getting at the moment, although I am definitely edging there. So there was a big shift in that. May actually ended up being my lowest income month, but that was because everything went into selling Wholehearted Business, which is the 12-month payment plan. So that's fine. So I was really, really happy with that. And then this month with June's just been like just a nice ticky over month. You know, I've kind of switched the focus to my one-to-one mentoring. I am very, very close to going sold, like to be fully booked with that, particularly for over the summer. So I think I've got like one more slot. I've just signed someone this morning up for that. So I've maybe got one more slot available for that. So I'm really, really happy with that again. And again, all of these things kind of combining is giving me the time and space to start building on stuff going into September. So I'm really, really happy with how things have gone. And it is that kind of 2 steps backwards in order to do the 3 steps forward situation. So that's how it's felt for me this year, is that I've kind of had to go backwards in order to go forwards. And now I'm at that point where I'm in the forward trajectory again, which feels really, really good. You know, I feel like I'm kind of getting somewhere. Although we are just about to go into the summer, and while, you know, you can still make lots of money in the summer, do lots and lots of things, my focus is going to switch to, you know, to other things, to family life, to all of that kind of stuff, to serving the clients that I've got, and just focusing on that until we get into September. In terms of income for the months in the second quarter of 2024, in April, I did £2,545, and that's $3,222. In May, I did £1,950, like I say, my lowest income month. And I'm not going to lie, I freaked out a little bit on that one. And that's £2,467. And June is due to probably hit around about because I don't have the final numbers for June, I think I'm due to hit about £5,500, which I think is about $7,000-ish, something like that. So June's really, really picked up. And like I said, I've signed some new clients this month. And it's all kind of heading in the right direction. I think the big thing for me going forward, and like I often say this, and I think the bottom line is I just haven't put the systems in place to ensure that this is happening on the scale that it needs to happen. It's the new people into your world thing. And while I've got a really healthy list and I've got strategies that are working for list growth and for bringing new people to find me and things like that, that just needs to be optimized even further. And that's the kind of thing that I'm ready and very excited to get stuck into as we go over the summer. So that's going to be my focus over the next few months, is really going to be on community and audience growth, which is super exciting. But yeah, that's the kind of, bit of the behind the scenes peek at what I've had going on. And like I say, being really, really honest, like I think some people would be really scared to share like the not so shiny numbers and figures in the business. But I don't feel like there's any part of this that is a failure for me. I think it's just a very natural process of someone's business needing to change, not just for the changes that are going on generally out in the world, but also for the way that I need my business to be for me moving forward in my life. So I'm really, really proud of the changes that I've made, the shifts that have come in, all that stuff I'm really, really happy with. And yeah, it's been really fab. Another thing that I have also added in June was I've put a page up on my website, basically, which is the studio, and this is where I'm supporting people who need some kind of design tech or website design work. Now, I did have this in place last year and I kind of retired that service in May last year, and I've brought it back because I really enjoy doing it, and as long as I charge appropriately for my time, which was the main issue that I had, it's actually an area of work that I really, really enjoy doing and that I'm really, really good at. Like, another thing that I've realised is like, I'm really shit hot at tech, I'm really shit hot at design, I'm really shit hot at doing people's websites. Like, I'm really good at it. I've just worked with a client to build out a sales funnel for her, and that's been really exciting and really enjoyable, like building out this entire sales funnel with a tripwire offer, with a special offer for a masterclass, and doing all this so that she can make some passive income because she kind of doesn't want to do as much one-to-one work. And that's been really, really good fun. I've really enjoyed supporting her with that. And those kind of projects, I like getting my teeth stuck into that kind of thing. So I've got that offer there. It's going to just sit there for anyone who wants to, kind of get in touch around it. It's not something I'm going to actively promote, but I just kind of want it sat there as an option. And then if the right project comes in, I can take it on. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, that kind of brings me up to date, kind of like life kind of side of things. My health and well-being's doing really, really well. I've just found such a really good groove with that. I've been getting in my wild swims again, which are like the thing that really fills my cup. I started doing park runs at the start of the year. I've done paddleboard yoga. I've started doing paddleboarding, and it's just been really, really good fun. Obviously, I went to Atomicon as well in June. If anyone is on my email list, I went to the big business conference that is up in Newcastle. It's been all busy, fun stuff. And, this particular period of time, as I've mentioned on the show before, I tend to plan my time in the chunks of time around the school terms, which kind of roughly align to some of the wheel of the year. And this particular season right now that is kind of runs up to the middle of July, like we're in the last 4 weeks of the school term. It is nuts. Like, it is absolutely nuts. There is so much stuff going on outside of my business that is pulling me in all sorts of different directions. And it is a busy one. And it's something, again, that I want to reflect on how I can manage this period of time better next year. I've got my little girl, she'll be starting school in September. So at the moment, we've kind of got the nursery school thing going on. It's going to be all school next year. And these things do like impact my business. One of the reasons that I run my business and the way that I run it is because I want to have that flexibility around my kids. I want to get involved in my local community. I want to do those things. I want to have fun experiences. I want to be able to go off, like last Friday, I was like, oh, fuck this, I'm going to go to the beach. It's like beautiful weather. I knew that the surf was flat because I like going in the sea when it's not, you're not going to get like smacked in the face with a wave. The surf was flat and I had like the most gorgeous solstice swim. And, that's how I want to run my business. I want to have that flexibility. I want all that stuff. I want enough income that I feel supported and taken care of. And, I can have the things that I need to have and nice things too. And I'm sure you want the same with your business as well. And again, that's what I'm here for. That's really, my driving force for why I do this is around helping other people not only like get out there and coach, because coaching as a way of supporting people is so important, and I love supporting other coaches to go out there and coach others and the coaching industry in general. I mean, yes, there's less great parts of the coaching industry, but on the whole I think coaching as a modality and mentoring as a level of that is just so important in this world. And I think it really helps people transform their lives and transform other people's lives. And also the fact that I want to support other people to have businesses that let them live their lives on their own terms, because so much of the stuff out there is trying to fit us into these boxes and have to do things in certain ways, and that leads to burnout, it leads to disconnection, it leads to unhappiness. And if we have the option to do something different for the people where this is right for them, I am really honoured to be able to support other people to do that in their lives as well. So there we have it. That is a bit of a really honest behind the scenes look at what I've had going on in the business since January. And like I say, I'm looking forward to a slower summer. I might do a little promotion on some of my courses in the summer. I will see how we go. And then I'll be reopening Wholehearted Business in September. And yeah, I'm just really excited for the rest of the year. It just feels like things have really, really shifted, and yeah, I'm ready for the rest of 2024 to come along and get stuck in with that. And yeah, I'd love to know, like, please let me know, how's the first half of the year been for you? Has anything that I've talked about today resonated for you? Please let me know. I really, really love getting feedback, whether you are tagging me on social media, whether you are directly emailing me, whether you're commenting on the YouTube video. Let me know. I really, really love your feedback, and yeah, and let me know what's been going on for you. That would be fab. And I will see you next week, guys. Take care. Bye.